Um, so you run a family business. What is it? What is it like to, yeah, to run a family business? I mean, because sometimes in business, I can go home but it's all family. How does that all work, Richard?
Well, our company is 99 years old.
Yeah.
As of last month on the 25th.
Wow.
Our grandmother started the company in 1925
Wow.
when our grandfather died unexpectedly. She opened a small corner grocery store and the business just grew from there. But in terms of what is it like, families are families. And of course, there are at times, cause for high celebrations and other, periods of, serious dysfunction and hurt feelings and things like that. So I think that's why at the beginning of time, the word family was chosen because it describes everything and leaves, few questions unanswered.
That's right. Everything is in the family. That's right.
Yes, yes.
Yeah. And
That's
I imagine, yeah.
what
Yeah.
some of the old timers say about nepotism. It's okay as long as you keep it in the family.
Keep it. That's right. As long as you keep it in the family, it's all good. Yeah.
Yes.
What was, I think about, of course, the first 2 years of COVID, we were in New York City and we shopped at, little mom and pop places in the city. I mean, and they were in neighborhood stores, and that's where we did a lot of our shopping. And what was COVID like for you all? What changes did that bring about?
Well, I think the short answer is many.
Yeah.
Is we were affected, very severely by supply chain issues.
Yeah.
Because, after COVID, it actually started March 11, 2020 for us. It's like, the floodgate was open and people came in by the droves and the state imposed, mandates on you can only have so many people in the building at the same time. And people were literally buying everything on the shelf. So we had our supply chain and our industry was stressed to the point to where we could only receive about 50 to 60% of the product that we ordered. And most of our stores order and receive semi-deliveries, like say 3-4 times a week.
Yeah.
And we had great difficulty just in getting enough product to replenish our stock levels. That was a major issue. The other major issue was dealing with customers who were trying, I think, as much to buy in larger quantities than they normally would. And that, of course, in some cases, removed opportunities from other families to buy and meet their needs. The issues were certainly as severe or greater in terms of our workforce because a lot of our employees just did not want to come to work. And of course, what do? You just have to support them, just the same. And so having a shortage of product and shortage of employees made for a somewhat of a perfect storm in our whole industry. And I think we were perhaps more fortunate. We only have 17 stores compared to the chains. And so rather than having 1,200 employees, most of our chain, peers in the industry have thousands and hundreds of thousands of employee associates. So the challenge was much greater for them. But we did pretty well all in all. We were very, very fortunate to have survived the way that we did.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember back, I mean, you just go in and there was just nothing on the shelves. You had to impose, limits on products. It was just, there for a while. How much has the shop at home? So like the Amazons or the big chains have the personal shop. I mean, because a lot of a lot of shopping was done not in person, not in the customer not coming to the store.
Yes.
Have you carried that on? Did you pick that up? Did you?
Well, we started, the online shopping during that period of time, as the COVID, situation unfolded. And it went very, very well. We continue it today.
Oh,
We
okay.
give customers the option of ordering from home, picking it up in the parking lot, or we deliver in some cases if they opt, for that option.
Yeah.
And it is not certainly as popular as what it was during COVID.
Yeah.
But it has continued to become maybe even somewhat of an industry norm in most cases.
Wow. Okay. Nice. I know you as a man of faith. And so how is your faith integrated into the business and business decisions? And I know we've talked a little bit about some of that, but how does your faith integrate?
Well, our grandmother was a very staunch German Catholic. Now, my wife comes from, I think, 8 generations of staunch German Lutherans.
Lutherans, that's right.
So it's like
I did wear my Lutheran.
it's like getting hit with two sticks from different trees.
Right.
But I think faith plays the basis. And going back to our original conversation about family business, I think one of the principal causes of family business failure is the lack of a framework, the lack of a structure, because a lot of family owners take the position that, well, you're an owner, I'm an owner. So we're both bosses. There's not a hierarchy.
Yeah.
And that's a nice thought, maybe somewhat of a platitude, but in reality, if there's not designated responsibility and specific organizational frameworks with a defined structure, it usually doesn't last beyond the second generation.
Yeah.
And we're fortunate enough to be in the 4th generation, not because we knew what we were doing, but I think that our predecessors recognized the need for a structure. We might have equal shares of ownership, but you need to take care of these duties. I'll take care of these duties. Whenever there's a question, a decision to be made, or even a conflict, then we sit down and talk.
Yeah.
And I think that's the basis. And faith plays a huge, opportunity to integrate what we believe. I guess it's like, in early Christianity, whenever in the Latin, lex orandi, lex credendi, kind of like, the law of faith is the law. What we kind of like pray what we believe.
Right.
And I think in family business, it's very, very similar in terms of the dynamics, because if we don't have a faith basis, then what do we believe? Well, it can vary. And so our faith serves us not only as realizing, pretty much every waking moment that, there is a higher power that has created, order in the universe and given us a framework within which we live and how we treat one another. But, those principles, play a very big part into how we operate a business.
Yeah.
Internally and externally, how we treat our people internally, how we treat the customers and vendors. Our grandmother had a practice when things were very tough in the Depression and there was little money in circulation. Her principle was, we pay employees first, then vendors, and then family. And I can remember my parents talking about, there were during those times instances where they had to wait, several weeks for a paycheck.
The family did. Yeah.
Yes. And that's really when faith comes in.
And family too. That's right.
As it said, if we lose our faith in the future, then we are lost.
Yeah.
So I think that, not only does, God have a presence in a family business, for that matter, in all business, and also in organizations, regardless of their nature and purpose. Because we have to have that roadmap, we have to have that compass to track, are we on course or not? And I think that the compass, part is where the faith comes in.
Yeah, nice.
Are you sorry you asked?
No, absolutely. I got a bonus in there too. We're going to come back to the bonus in a second. Toughest decision you've made in the business. What was the toughest decision?
Well, it was not mine to make solely.
Yeah.
But back in the 70s, the most difficult decision that the family made, and this may bring tears, and that was making the decision to open the stores on Sundays.
Yeah.
Our grandmother was vehemently opposed to that. So after her passing, the family, and even back then, had a board of directors who made major decisions, and the vote was very split. And there were some hurt feelings over the discussion that took place. The rationale being, well, every other grocery store is open. Why should we be closed?
Right.
That's a very, very difficult decision. But majority rules, and I don't know if we could say that's a democratic thing or Robert's Rules of Order or what,
Yeah.
but majority ruled in that decision. The store started to open on Sunday. I'm still not sure it was the best decision, but it was one that was made.
Yeah. A business decision, right? Yeah.
Like any other conflict, sometimes we read the Serenity Prayer
Yeah.
over and over.
Yeah. It's interesting. Our bishop in Northwestern Ohio this year has declared 2024 the year of rest. He took a sabbatical last fall, and he came back and says, we need to look at this Sabbath keeping, sabbatical, rest. And so I'm actually leading a book study right now on Sabbath and Sabbath keeping and rest. And this comes up. I remember the blue laws, and I remember everything was closed, and man, I wish we could go back to that. And even, those of us who remember those days, it's like there was something about it, that it was like, it was okay. We figured it out how to, yeah. And now, I say we can never go back. I'm like, well, I don't know. If enough of us stopped shopping on Sundays, business would tell us that it will close, so
we had a very fine, high quality retailer friend in Virginia. They operated wonderful stores, and they made a decision back in the 90s to continue to stay closed on Sunday. It was their tradition, for many, many years and generations. And unfortunately, they didn't survive because, convenience and it's all about me, society,
Yep.
kind of like, trumped the decision.
The decision on it. Yeah. And and we've been talking in our book studies. It's like, it just means being intentional. I make sure to do what I need to do so that I can have that time to rest. Our time of rest should not be doing all the things we didn't get done the other 6 days. That's not rest. And our bodies need it, our minds need it, our souls need it. Yeah.
Well, certainly for me, and this is, somewhat of a confession, it has been very difficult for me to live what I believe.
Yeah.
In every case.
Yeah.
Very difficult, very challenging.
Yeah, because it rubs, and it's like, how much conflict do I want to put it out there? How much conflict do I want to rub? How much? Yeah. And it's tough to live it out, what we truly believe. And we give and take. I mean, it's a give and take. It really is. And so, what can we give and what we take?
I have a feeling that as a result of this video, one of us is going to get a call from an agent. And I'm convinced it's not going to be me.
Oh, it's somebody that has a nice haircut, though.
Michelle just cut it, actually.
Oh, good for her. It saves on barber fees when you can do it yourself.
does.
You know, I know. I know. Yeah, the bonus that you gave me, one of the things I always enjoy about you, you always keep me, I've always got to stay up on my Latin when we talk. So it's so
Well,
we always get the Latin in. It's like, oh, I got to brush up on my Latin. Yeah, yeah.
well, I try to do that by occasionally saying, quia tuus Deus fortitudo mea, quae me repelisti, et quae tristis incedo, dum affligit me inimicos. And yes, I'm boasting.
Yes, yeah. Now we're just showing off.
Psalm 42.
Yeah. And then, you know, I mean, I go back to the day, I mean, I do. And, you know, my mother, a good Irish Catholic, which didn't always agree with the German Catholics, but we, you know, we figured it out. But yeah, and you know, she goes back to the days when you know, I grew up in both sides of the house, you know, and yeah, and doing the mass in Latin, and yeah, I mean, it's something about that. So, yeah, the speaking about languages, so an adjunct faculty member at West Liberty University, yes?
Yes.
Yeah.
I did that for nearly 15 years and then I retired. Whenever they basically told me that I needed to transition all the classes to online, and I said, I'm sorry, I just feel like I'm shortchanging. Yeah.
Yeah. What did you teach?
Well, mainly business courses, primarily marketing and leadership.
Yeah.
But I just felt that all the students deserve to be afflicted by me.
Well, so for, yeah, when I was prior to coming to the, you know, to the parish, in Urbana, I taught at Urbana, you know, I was an adjunct faculty at Urbana, you know, and I was, you know, I'm molding young minds and all that. And they tolerated me for about 3.5 years, you know. And
It's a real opportunity to make a difference
yeah,
in some folks who are searching.
I would say that's true. We found, you know, people, and just like anything we do, even in business and anything we do, there's people who get it and people who don't, and you just put it out, you just put it out there, and what happens is on them and not so much on you. And no, I enjoyed that time. I actually have in my current congregation a person who is in like the Sports Hall of Fame at WLU. So it's like there's your West Liberty University connection. Yeah. So how how many pairs of socks do you have, Richard?
Well, I would say probably 12.5, but I think I wear the same 6 all the time.
So here's the question. Here's the probative question. See, so if you get a hole in one, do you just toss the one, or does both go, the pair?
It depends on if Michelle notices it or not.
If either go, is that what you're saying? Yeah, yeah. So the one with the hole can even stay if Michelle doesn't see it.
Yes, it can. It can.
For how long? How long?
Especially for a time.
For a time. For everything in its time. Everything has a time. That's what the teacher in Ecclesiastes told us. Everything has a time.
And a season.
And a season, that's right. But not multiple seasons. Right. Yeah, it's like, yeah. And so, you know, the kids today, they mix and match. So do you mix and match, or is it the same sock?
No, that's one thing that there are no worries about me ever doing that.
You're not going to show up to work for a board meeting with multiple socks on, right?
No, not unless I really get up early and can't see as well.
See, that's like me. Sometimes I just don't turn the lights on, and I'm like, you know, it looks, and then you realize it really is a black and a blue, and it's like, it's all right, close enough.
But my guess is anything that should have happened on that particular day still happened.
Probably.
Regardless of the sock.
It's just right. I mean, and it usually took me a while to realize that I had multiple socks on, but that's okay. Most recent movie you've seen?
Well, there are some movies that I think, you know, particularly, you know, touched me and moved me. One is The Mission, because, you know, I went to a Jesuit university It was a story of the Jesuits in South America.
Yeah.
I think around the 1700s or 1800s. It was very, very long, had some good acting.
Yeah.
It really, really moved me.
Okay.
And for completely different reasons and different, I guess, elements, The Godfather has always been a favorite because Michelle and I quote lines from The Godfather all the time. There's seldom a day that goes by that we don't use a quote or two from part one, part two, or part three.
Oh,
And
the
it has
trilogy.
nothing-
Yeah, there you go.
It has nothing to do with, organized crime or
Yeah.
that. It has everything to do with family.
Yeah, right. Which was a huge theme in that, huge theme throughout all of that. Yeah. Yeah, it was, living on Staten Island, we got to, we always heard, oh, well, they shot this here and shot that there for The Godfather. So you got to drive by places and or
Yes.
Brooklyn or, in the city.
Mhm.
Yeah, so back to just grocery wise, 17 stores versus, these mega chains.
Yes.
Yeah, and then so how 99 years, right? If I remember correct, 99 years.
Yes.
So, and still going. I mean, what is it that has kept you going when the big mega chains and, I can go get an oil change and get my grocery in the same place, which I don't do actually, but right.
Well, in an organization in our particular industry, it's the people who make the difference.
Yeah.
It's not the upper management. It's not the ownership. It's the people who are, front facing the customer, every day, who make the difference. That is the biggest opportunity that retailers have today, whether they realize that or not. The other differentiator that we strive for is to make our own bakery and deli products in our stores. And relative to our competitors, in the same industry, we think our product offers appeal that theirs does not. Because deli products, for example, that we make by our wonderful, kitchen cooks, the kitchen cooks in our delis could very easily be mistaken for, the cooking that you always refer to as the church ladies, because they know how to make things
Right.
in the best of ways.
Best of ways.
And the rest of our industry buy that same product made in a commissary, somewhere else. And they basically just pour it, into a container.
Yeah.
And we think that's a big differentiator.
Yeah. I remember can't remember, but I remember picking up king cakes for a Mardi Gras party at,
Yes.
at your store. And then recently, here's what I'm going to drop it on you because I saw it on your billboard on 70 coming through
Bridgeport.
yeah, coming back. And so explain to me what's a potchki, what's the
It's a Polish word. It's pronounced punchki.
puchki, there it is.
And they're traditionally made by, Polish Christians primarily, right before Lent starts. And it kind of means a concoction. They would take typically whatever they had on hand and then make it a dough like you would a homemade donut.
Yeah.
Fill them, fry them, ice them, that type of thing. It's a long-standing tradition. We picked up on it about 30 years ago, and we've just really tried to grow the interest, and by making them from scratch, created that homemade appeal.
So all that stuff you do in-house, you bake it all. Yeah,
We
nice.
do. Yeah, we make it all, and each year for Lent we usually sell between 300,000 and 400,000 individual punchkis.
Wow.
Yes.
Wow. Yeah. So, I mean, and I think about, bakers and I mean, that's a huge experience, to go to a grocery and be able to, from scratch this stuff.
Yes. And accordingly, it's more and more challenging to find people who want to learn the baking trade
Right.
and meat cutting and becoming a chef in a kitchen, that type of thing.
Yeah.
For those who are interested, there are a lot of good opportunities.
Yeah. My grandmother, actually back in the day was a butcher for A&P. So there, yeah, but I mean, yeah, yeah, do we even have, I mean, like the big box stores, do they even have butchers anymore? I mean, you just, yeah,
They do in the case of some retail cuts,
yeah,
but we're still old fashioned enough that we do meat cutting in the stores every day.
wow. So that's cool. And I think that, I mean, I think that adds to the existence. I mean, it's,
Well, we think it plays into the differentiation, but at the same time, it's challenging to be competitive because we pay well, we have benefit programs for our people, and our business model requires so many skilled positions,
right. Yeah,
opposed to just someone starting, with no experience.
right. Yeah, yeah. Wow. That's pretty neat. Um, Books that have influenced you,
Okay, I'm sorry.
books that have influenced you.
Oh, well, that's a that's one of the easier questions. I think that going back, to my days as a student. I mean, some of the books that influenced me and just moved me so much. For example, Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning. He was in prison as part of the Holocaust.
Yep.
Wrote a book, and at the end of the book, I mean, just those folks went through so much torture and anguish and everything on the scale of human experience, that whenever you finish it, you say to yourself, I don't have any problems.
Yeah.
Like they had.
Yeah.
And even before Viktor Frankl and the Holocaust was, Martin Buber,
Yeah.
the I and thou. And I think the big takeaway from that reading is that in order to experience the meaning of God, we experience the fullness of human relationship. And that experience leads us to not only an understanding, but a more relational thing with our Creator.
Yeah. Nice.
And then his name is Henry Louis Gates. He wrote a book called Colored People. It was very, very moving.
Okay.
And actually, he does a series on PBS also. So those are some of my claims to
Yeah.
have read and studied that made an impact, made a difference.
Yeah. Good for you. What's what's new and upcoming the future for Riesbecks?
Well, I think that right now, given the acuity of competition and the changing consumer, everyone, it has become, unfortunately, in some ways, an instant gratification, society, and people want what they want now, without explanation, without justification. I want it because I want it. That is challenging. There have been some retailers who have experimented with the kind of like the no-touch store. You go in and whatever you take out, you're charged for on your credit card. And it just hit our trade journals yesterday that one of those experiments has shut down.
Oh, wow.
And my guess would be because there's just no human interaction.
Right.
It's all technology.
Yeah. Yeah. I find it interesting because I don't use the self-scan stuff, for this very reason. And, I'd rather have a conversation with the cashier and the bagger
Sure.
and there's a significant number of us who'll stand in line for the one or two lanes
Yes.
when the self-serve is open. I think you're absolutely correct on this. It is a relation. And in some sense, if I come to your store every week, whatever, then I mean we talk about an expanded family. Well, the family of not only your business family your
Yes,
shoppers that are there every week, twice a week, whatever. It becomes family, and there
does.
it is a relational experience.
And it can become a little bit like the hairdresser and the barber. They can be substitute therapists at times.
Yeah,
Good listening skills, interacting with empathy, with compassion, with understanding, with kindness, with generosity. All of that, I think, is another opportunity to integrate faith in our lives,
yeah.
and by actually doing, for others.
So like our hairdressers, they're they have to work hard to find it. You know what I mean? They're
Yes,
working hard. They have to converse with us because they're working hard trying to find that hair up there.
yes, and if their vision goes, then we both have problems.
We're both we're, we're both in the world of hurt. Roses and thorns. So thorns being challenges, roses being successes, roses and thorns, roses and thorns for you.
Well, one of the biggest thorns relating to family is when we lost both of our parents and our grandmother, the founder of our company, in the same year.
Oh, wow.
And I was with three other siblings. I was the oldest and the only legal adult. So
Wow.
we had three siblings who were all minor children, who had different needs, different challenges, and so on and so forth. And so it became a challenge for me, individually, to try to keep everything in balance, be a substitute, parental influence, but yet not be too, difficult and obstinate that it would be, like military.
Yeah.
It was very, very challenging for me. And I think that my siblings would likely agree. They were so much younger. I was 21. The youngest sibling was 7. So there
Wow.
was quite a spread.
Difference. Yeah.
Yes. That was a big challenge. Individually, for myself, probably getting off tobacco was my biggest, most difficult challenge on the personal side.
Yeah. It's tough. It's tough.
Well, for me, looking back, it was all psychological because I never believed that I could do it. I lacked the confidence. And I just thought, I just can't do this. I cannot accomplish this.
Yeah.
This is beyond me. And so, as people with different substance issues always say, I've quit 1,000 times, which I did. And I don't know which time it was that finally set in, but I finally, reached the point where I've just had this. I will, whatever happens to me happens. I've got to get off this stuff.
Yeah.
And after the first 2 weeks, I look back saying, this wasn't nearly as difficult as I thought.
Yeah.
And so now that, is almost like, the comedian, whatever his name is, it says, like, here's your sign. That's kind of like a sign for me.
Yeah.
It may not be as difficult as your thinking makes it.
Right. Right. We make our own difficulties.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I know I do.
Yeah. I know. So roses, what roses for you? What roses?
Well, we lost our parents and grandmother in 1970, and the family was at a crossroads in terms of succession because the previous generation were aging.
Yeah.
And our primary leader, my uncle, selected me over his son to succeed him. That was a very, very difficult situation for the family. Very, very hurtful for some. And when I look at the ground that we've covered, we've had to face a lot of very challenging issues that we've not only survived, but we had 3 stores then, and we've grown. Not that growth for the sake of growing is the epitome of everything, but I think we have done well to keep the family business going. In the mid 80s, we implemented an employee stock ownership plan. And now fast forwarding, 30 years, 40 years, whatever it is, our employees own 60% of the company.
Wow,
Yes.
nice.
And so that has, I think that has done well as a reflection of what our family not only continues to believe in, but, some of the principles that our grandmother, tried to teach us when she was still here.
Yeah. Wow. So the last one, Earthandcup. So Earth, what grounds you, and whatever understanding of grounding you have. So what grounds you?
Well, I think that to me, it's to start with the flip side. What empties me
Yeah.
is indecision, things that continue to go unresolved. And it's not that they have to be solved, but if they can be just figured out, and at least if parties can agree to, okay, here's the issue, we all recognize it for what it is, here's what we're willing to do. It's the indecision and sometimes the denial that the issue exists that I find the most troubling.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, it's your service area. I want to go to Riesbeck's Grocery. What's your service area?
It's about 100-mile footprint geographically from northeastern West Virginia
Yeah.
to Toronto, Ohio to the north. That's north of Steubenville, westward to Zanesville, north again to Sugar Creek, Ohio, New Town, yes, and south to Woodsfield and New Martinsville, West Virginia.
Yeah.
That's our geographic footprint.
Nice, nice. 17 stores. So go visit Puchki's. You can get Puchki's before Lent. Go get your Puchki and go visit Riesbeck. It's good to catch up with you. Blessings to you and the family. And yeah, and it's good to catch up. And next time I come through, we'll have to stop and have a coffee sometime.
Well, please do. Thank you for the opportunity for me to fumble through my expression of faith. And since my mother was Russian Orthodox and we're still within Easter tide, I have to say, Christos voskres vostinium voskres. Christ is risen indeed.
Indeed. There you go. Cool. Well, thanks, Richard.
Well,